Dear 6th semester optional students, today I start with defining theory and criticism. Already I have explained and defined the term criticism. So the term criticism, as I have told you, is judgment. So literary criticism is nothing but the judgment of literature. So criticism, or more specifically literary criticism, is concerned with defining, classifying, analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating works of literature. So, criticism is the job of defining, classifying, analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating. So, this is the work of critic. So, a good critic judges the literary work based on all these standards, all these facts. Now, I continue about the term criticism. The term criticism derives from the Greek word kritikos, Kritikos. This is the Greek word. It means judgment. So, which was used in the 4th century BC. So, the term kritikos, word used in the 4th century BC to mean a judge of literature. The term kritikos was used to mention the term judging literature. In English, Dryden used this term first time in the modern sense in his preface to the State of Innocence. He writes, criticism, as it was first instituted by Aristotle, was meant a standard of judging well. So it was the matter of 44th century, 3rd century BC, when Aristotle discussed so many things. So among which one concept was judging or judgment or criticism. So he said the standard of judging well. What to judge? A work of art is to judge. So when the business of writing completes, then starts the business of criticism. If there is a work of literature, there is a criticism. This is how we can say. F.R. Lewis endorses this view. So another important and famous critic, F.R. Lewis, also had the same opinion like Aristotle, which he says that, so according to F.R. Lewis, he says, to set up as a critic is to set up a judge of values. So according to F.R. Lewis, a critic is nothing but he is the judge of values. So whether the values are beneficiary or non beneficiary, good or bad. So this is how done by a critic. A literary critic or criticos is therefore a judge of literature. So he makes the judgment of literature. Critic is nothing but he makes the judgment of literature. So in practice, however, criticism is concerned with the study, interpretation, and evaluation of literature. So Matthew Arnold, one of the famous critic of England, and belongs to the 17th century. He describes criticism as a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world. So, this is the definition of Matthew Arnold about what is criticism. So, implicit is this definition is that literary criticism is a disciplined activity, a very systematic activity, a disciplined activity that attempts to study, analyze, interpret, and evaluate the work of art. So, if a work of art given to the hands of a critic starts defining the subject, defining the terms, analyzing it, evaluating it, interpreting it. So, this is the job of a critic. Arnold would argue this discipline attempts to formulate aesthetic and methodological principles on the basis of which the critic can evaluate a text. So, when we consider its function and its relationship to texts, so what kind of a relationship of this criticism with the textbooks? I mean, literary books. So, literary criticism is not usually considered a discipline in and of itself, for it must be related to something else. So, more than its relationship with the textbook, it has some more important thing, that is, a work of art. Without the work of art, the activity of criticism cannot exist. That's why I said, where the work of a writer completes, there begins the work of criticism. So, without a literary text, there won't be any literary criticism. And it is through this discerning activity that we can explore those questions that help define our humanity, evaluate our actions, or simply increase our appreciation and enjoyment of both a literary work and our fellow human beings. That's why this is the way how we have to read and understand the meaning of the criticism